My name is Tom Junta, and I'll try and go real quick because I have a lot to say. I want to thank the council for coming out publicly in opposing Act 13, the natural gas impact fee. However, I would like to ask that you stand strong and show the state and our governor that this is bad legislation by coming out and not accepting the fee. Now, I know that's a lot to ask the county to reject money, but our figures estimate that only $10 per person for the county is all that this is worth. And what are we going to get for $10 per county? The act prohibits local zoning. So we had out in Dallas, Pennsylvania, the township, we went to meetings all last year trying to prevent a compressor station near the Dallas High School. We got the zoning passed, we prevented the compressor station, and now this act allows gas activities in residential areas now. The compressor station that just blew up in Springfield a week and a half ago could have been right by the Dallas High School, where they told us that could never happen. And by the way, Williams Gas Company is running the compressor station a day after they were told not to, before any investigation was happening. I asked you to consider not only the monies that you would lose by not accepting the impact fee, but if you did accept the impact fee, the money that would be lost from reassessments, because these gas facilities placed in residential areas will affect property values. People will be applying for reassessments, and you're going to lose money that way. If there's an accident, the setbacks are very small. They're only 1,000 feet from a reservoir for our drinking water supplies. Last year and a half, when Encana was going to drill in Lehman Township, they wanted to drill 1.7 miles from the Huntsville Reservoir. Gas wells are now going horizontally at least 2 miles. Okay, so the setback is only from the vertical well, which means they can go right up to the banks of our Huntsville or our Seastown reservoirs. That supplies the water supply for everybody here in this valley, 150,000 people. So think about the problems and the cost associated should there be an accident. I could show you the scientific studies that show if you're anywhere within a kilometer of a gas well, you have an 85% chance of having methane and other contaminants possibly in your water supply. So if they can go 2 miles horizontally, the setback should be at least 2.5 miles. So we know that if this gas well that was placed in Lehman Township by Encana is bought or sold, because there have been rumors that it was sold out to Citrus Energy, and they start drilling again, they have the potential to go right up to the banks of our drinking water supply. Now, when they had a problem up in Dimmock, the DEP had agreed to, at first, put a water line from Lake Montrose, which is 13 miles away, to where they had the problem water in Dimmock at the cost of $12 million. If something like that happens to Huntsville or Seastown reservoirs, there's no water supply that could be piped. Okay, so think about the economic damage that we would be selling out for that. So
I just asked if you finished up your last
comment.
Okay,
I just want to ask that the council members be leaders and put your money where your mouth is. You know, I really appreciate what you did so far, but let's go the full mile and reject the impact fee. Thank you.
Very much. Good evening, ma'am. Please say your name for the record.
Joan Schooley. I ask you to vote against the impact fee, and if Act 13 overrides all municipal authority in relation to oil and gas activities, why is it required of all counties or municipalities to accept it individually? It sounds to me like a way to limit your legal alternatives to later on oppose it. Has anyone consulted an attorney on this? Why should the county decide for the municipalities? Has anyone checked with the individual municipalities on their feelings on accepting Act 13?
Thank you very much for your comments. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Dave Thomas from Plymouth Township. This is about the third or fourth time that I've addressed the council on the impact fee, and my position has not changed. I still stand in front of you in opposition to this fee. I could tell you all of the bad things about Act 13, but I think all of you are aware of that already, because as a group you voted unanimously that it's a bad act. And so today you have to stand before the public and make a decision. You either accept the fee or you don't. And so then, what is the basis for your decision? The only advice that I can give you is some advice that I got from my dad a long time ago. You know, he said when I was a young man and I had decisions to make, I would sit down with him, and he never told me what the right choice was, but he said, you can make a decision and do the easy thing, which is the popular thing. He said, or sometimes you may have to make a decision which is more difficult. It may not be popular. May even be some repercussions. But what he said is that if you have principles and you do what's right in your heart, he said, at the end of the day, you'll make more right decisions than wrong decisions, and you'll be a better man for it. And if society would do the same, our world would be a better place. And so today, you have a choice. You can do the easy thing, and you can accept the impact fee. Or you can do the harder thing, but do the right thing. You voted against Act 13, so in your heart and in principle, you are opposed to this act. If you accept the fee by acquiescence, you're saying, give me the money, and whatever is in there, I accept it as a token. It's almost as if it's a bribe. You were coerced to take the money, because the state government knows that all local municipalities need money. So I'm saying here today is that you have an opportunity to be leaders in Luzerne County, to represent the 300 and some thousand odd residents of the county based on principle. And based on principle, you already said Act 13 is a bad act, and therefore you should reject the impact fee. That would send a strong message to Harrisburg. Actions speak louder than words. If you tell them, I don't want your money, it's not worth the risk, it's a bad act, vote not to take the impact fee, and use your power and influence and prestige of where you're at to support the activities of those groups that are already, right now, taking action to repeal this bad act. How will you vote? Principle or easy? We'll see. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If we could have Ms. Nancy Dolan, Ms. Kim Krupshaw, Ms. Carol Culver, and I'd ask also Mr. Larry Delagrado and Mr. David Wazlewski, all speaking on the impact fee tonight, so I'd greatly appreciate if we can have all those comments inserted. Thank you very much. Good evening, Nancy. Can you just say your name for the record?
Good evening, Nancy Dolan and Exeter Borough, and thanks again for listening to us hearing comments on this topic once again. You know, since the last time we met, a couple of things have happened, and first I would like to reiterate everybody else's comments here thanking this group for actually publicly stating their opposition to Act 13. That was a very good move on your part, and I give you kudos for that. But going forward, there are lawsuits out there, you know, asking for injunctive relief against this act. That suit is being heard tomorrow. The judge has moved that up and is going to hear that case tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. There may be ramifications to this community, our communities, based on that. If this council would consider holding off on voting on this act, this passing of this impact fee, because there could be potential legal ramifications for the future for any community that is going to be affected by your passing of this impact fee. We understand the act is law. We know that it's in place, and it can't be, it actually can be changed because people are working to change that. But the acceptance of the impact fee may weaken your position and the position of the municipalities in Luzerne County should they choose to fight an invasive operation of the gas industry that would cause impacts to people and environments. So it might be a good idea, it would be a suggestion that maybe hold off until you hear what the judge has to say about this act. Because if he does give injunctive relief, then you would not have to vote on this right away until the case was complete, until they went through the whole process, heard the arguments on both sides, and made a decision. So it is an option for you to see if you could take that time, and let's look at what the reading comes back tomorrow. What does the judge say, and take a position from there. So I would ask you to do that. In lieu of that, if you decide you do not want to do that, we have asked that a statement be incorporated into your ordinance that would leave the door open and state emphatically state that you are opposed to the provisions of Act 13, and you reserve your right to protest those provisions at a future date. So that's what I would ask if the council would consider those two options. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Dolan. Good evening. Just please state your name as always. Thank you.
Carol Culver from Harvey's Lake. Once again, I thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak, and I promise I won't take much of your time. Harvey's Lake spent a lot of money in rewriting their ordinance, as well as most municipalities. What these elected officials were trying to do was to fulfill their jobs as elected officials to protect their constituents. And that's what I'm asking of you. Protect the people who voted you into office. I know in the last few weeks you've received articles and facts to help educate you on Act 13. I also know you have been sent statements from several lawyers that are well versed on the Act. I would suggest that you take the lawyer's advice and do nothing. Do not accept the impact fee. Don't alter any ordinance to suit the gas companies. This is where you should just sit back and let the municipalities decide what they want to do for themselves. If you haven't heard, the bottom is dropping out money-wise for these gas companies, which means even less money will come your way from the impact fee. Granted, money is money, but are these pennies really worth stripping away our rights? The judge, like Nancy said, is going to make the decision tomorrow. I too would ask that you postpone your vote till after that, because it may change a lot. Okay, so in closing, I'm only one individual, but I'm a person who loves our state of Pennsylvania, and it hurts me to see the damage that has already occurred to very many people and to a lot of our state. I beg you to please don't allow this to be a common occurrence by giving the industry free range to destroy our state any further. Remember, they don't live here, they don't care. They're only worried about putting the money in the pockets of the foreign companies that own them. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Kim Krupshaw from Kingston. I want to thank you again for coming out against Act 13. And I'm here myself to thank you for that act, but I'm also here to ask you on behalf of my two nieces and my two nephews who attend Dallas School District, who the GDAC and other local individuals worked very hard for last year to enact local zoning that prohibited a gas compressor station from being built directly across the street from their school. As we know, last week in Springville, the explosion from the compressor station, if that had happened across the street, that would have unnerved and unraveled 3,000 school children and all of their parents. I went home last week and I hugged my nieces and nephews a little bit harder because that did not occur across the street. So if you're going to approve funds from Act 13, that is directly approving, in my opinion, Act 13 and your approval of it. So I'd ask tonight for the school children, for the parents and the citizens who work very hard to enact local zoning to protect their children, that you disapprove, not approve the funds from Act 13. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Larry.
How you doing? Larry Del Grotto, Exeter Borough. How you doing? If Act 13 was a good law, they wouldn't be asking you to vote on an impact fee. They would have included the impact fee within the law already. So why are they asking you to vote for it? Well, the governor and the legislature of Pennsylvania need your support to validate a bad law. So we ask ourselves, why is it bad? Well, speaking to you tonight as a resident of Luzerne County and as an appraiser for 30-some odd years in Pennsylvania, in this county, and as a real estate broker, it's bad for a lot of reasons, but one, to validate what Dr. Junta said, it has a potential to affect property values. Allowing the gas and oil company to expand into residential neighborhoods. This could affect the most precious thing we have in Luzerne County, families. Families who have invested in their homes to see their values going the other way, and they will go down. It's what we call external obsolescence, negative forces outside your property that affect the value of your property. And you'll see people coming in for reassessments. The other reason it's bad, it strips municipalities of their given right to control zoning. Under the State Enabling Acts in Pennsylvania, municipalities, the power was conferred upon them to control their own destiny regarding zoning. Municipality which I'm involved in Exeter Borough, we've spent a considerable amount of time and effort and money over the last 2 years redoing our zoning ordinances, not to ban oil and gas industry, but to control where they can go and how they can go in order to protect our citizens. I call upon you tonight as Luzerne County officials to protect the citizens of Luzerne County. Take a stand against the governor and the legislature. Stand up for it. Don't validate their bad law. Vote against the impact fee. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, David.
Good evening. Dave Wazaleski, Hunlock Creek. First, I would like to reiterate the thank you that we've already heard to the council for making a very strong public statement against Act 13. It's about time, in my opinion, that some of our high-profile public community leaders come out and say something about the gas drilling industry other than how much money it's going to generate for a few people. On one hand, Act 13 purports to disempower local municipalities just by preempting zoning laws right off the top. However, I quote from the Act, "Municipalities found to be in violation of Act 13 shall not receive any well fee funds until the ordinance is amended, repealed, or the order that the ordinance is unlawful is reversed on appeal," end quote. Now, we need to ask ourselves, why did they put this language into the law? I think I can suggest an answer. I think the law is probably, at least constitutionally, not on firm ground. They want to bribe municipalities into getting on board with this law that may very well be unconstitutional. I'm not well versed in constitutional law, but I can read between the lines when I see something like this in a document. They put this in there because they are trying to strong arm people like us into buying into this corrupt and bad situation that is basically falls under the heading of Act 13. So I ask you to please vote against accepting the impact fee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, on the gas impact fee, I applaud the fact that you're standing against the Act 13. However, you can't stand against the act and then take the money. The Fish and Boat Commission has a mission statement that is to protect, conserve, enhance the Commonwealth's aquatic resources and provide fishing and boating opportunities. On March 7th of 2011, they sold out because their budgets were cut, and they're selling out the water at Donegal Lake in Westmoreland County for fracking purposes. They're considering allowing oil wells to be drilled in their property. Eddie Pashinsky, the representative, said that the effective tax rate is less than 1% per well, the lowest of every major gas-producing state in the country. They pay 7.5 in Texas, 7 in Oklahoma, and 5 in West Virginia. I don't feel you can take the money, not in good conscience. If you're going to stand against the act, you can't take the money. Of course, you can take the money, but then again, you'll be like the old politics in this county, which needs to be changed, and we all thought we voted for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.